What does the future of video game development look like, especially in this rapidly evolving digital marketplace? Well, today I'm thrilled to welcome Christopher Meredith, Senior VP of Business Development at Xsolla, a global video game marketplace company that is helping developers and publishers launch, market and monetize their games worldwide. And he's got an impressive career spanning industry giants from Sony PlayStation to Warner Brothers, and also brings a wealth of knowledge to the table and experience in the industry. So today we'll talk about the role that they're playing in empowering game creators from indie developers to large studios, and how they're guiding them through the funding, marketing and distribution process. And we'll also try and uncover some insights from their State of Play report and give us a first-hand look at how the EU's new Digital Markets Act is reshaping the gaming landscape, especially if you're an indie developer. So how will this legislation affect developers and publishers? Will it level the playing field for smaller players in the industry? And what trends are on the horizon following Chris's time at Gamescom and DevCom and so many other different conferences out there? Well, let's explore some of these answers together as we unpack the latest developments in the world of gaming, all in Worcester here in the UK. Before we get today's guest on, I want to talk about the fact that defence contractors face immense pressure to comply with something called CMMC 2.0 security standards. And finding a secure, easy-to-use file sharing solution meeting those guidelines can be a major challenge. The federal government and federal systems integrators supporting the Department of Defence have similar compliance requirements for improving cybersecurity and data protection too. So if you are an IT admin in the defence sector, if you are tired of juggling complex security solutions, Kiteworks offers a game-changing approach to CMMC 2.0 compliance because their centralised policy management simplifies administration across the entire platform. So upgrade to Kiteworks and experience the perfect blend of security and simplicity. So if you're interested in accelerating your CMMC 2.0 compliance and begin addressing federal zero trust requirements with Kiteworks' universal secure file sharing platform made for defence contractors, simply visit kiteworks.com to get started. But now it's time to return to our regularly scheduled programming and welcome today's guest onto the mic. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
So my name's Chris Meredith. I'm the Senior Vice President of Xsolla for the EMEA region. Been in gaming for about 25 years, holding senior marketing positions with PlayStation, Blue Mobile, who I was a founding member of, Warner Brothers Interactive, that I built up to revenues of around about 25 million in the first 18 months, and also ran MTV Games in Europe, all prior to joining the wonderful world of Xsolla. So basically my role at Xsolla, and just to put this in context, is basically to connect. So I connect my team with the development community in the EMEA, who connects developers and gaming organizations with our best-in-class monetization solutions for the games they make. And then together they connect with their games with gamers. And the cycle is sort of completed when that partnership connects games with the worldwide gaming community. So I'm getting no doubt to the sort of the basis of how that connection works, but that's primarily my role, is to make sure all those connection points align and they work in a seamless and positive way.
Well, there are so many different reasons I'm excited to get you on the podcast today. Gaming's been a huge part of my life since those Atari 2600 days back in the day. And I used to run a website called This Is My Joystick. I'll help run a website called This Is My Joystick. And Xsolla has become a significant player in the global video game commerce space in recent years. So can you just tell me a little bit more about how you're supporting game developers and indeed publishers throughout that whole life cycle of the game and funding to monetization, because that space has changed so much, hasn't it, over the years?
So, yeah, no, absolutely. I'm happy to answer that question. And in order for Xsolla to keep our position in the market and to offer best-in-class solutions for the marketplace, we really make sure that we are starting at a ground level. In terms of funding, we sponsor numerous events and conferences for the dev community, allowing investors to meet face-to-face with developers seeking funding and support. Once that funding is secured and titles are in development, we then work closely with our partners, guiding them through our product suite, defining integration roadmaps to explore which solutions may aid the maximization of their revenues, and also to make sure they are focused on growth as well, because they want to make sure that there are other products to follow the one that we've been working on with them. So in turn, we work to ensure that the suite of opportunities that we provide with our solutions works with their own individual business models. Now, the landscape of the market has changed, particularly over the last 5 years. And we're seeing now that not only do you need to be an expert in doing development, you also need to understand what is a monetization model for your business. How do I actually make money? How do my efforts really result in the kind of the goals that I need to achieve? So that's, now a key part of the development expertise that they're bringing forward. And aligned to that is, what is our go-to-market? How do I make sure that my game is getting share of voice in a hugely congested market? And even with all the realignment we've seen in this marketplace, you're still seeing upward trends of revenues, particularly here in EMEA. And so the market increasingly grows in regards to revenue lines. So in regards to our products and the integration of our products, our customers support teams provide all kinds of support to and advice to our partners. And the product teams look to gather feedback regarding the functionality of our current products with those partners that we're working with. So to look towards the demand of future products. So we're always in constant development, looking at what changes are in the marketplace, whether they're led by market demands or whether they are led by the development's needs, to ensure that we best aid the commercial aspirations of our partners. So as a merchant of record for developers and publishers alike, we deal with the tax, legal queries, and a number of other specialized areas so that developers can really focus on working on their games, how to maximize the value from their games, and how to journey to success with their games. In the midst of this, the business development and the relations leads communicate closely with all of our partners to ensure that we are aligned on making sure that integrations and feedbacks from what they need and what they want are being dealt with. So it's a multi-leveled service that we provide, not only once our partners are integrated with our solutions, but how we maintain and consistently support those guys with their future needs.
And before you came on the podcast today, I was doing a little research on your personal origin story. And one thing that stood out to me was your career spans from roles at major companies, from Sony, PlayStation to Warner Brothers. I'm curious, how have your experiences at these companies influenced your approach to business development there? Is any crossovers, any big synergies?
I think the first learning is the fact that you have to appreciate being very lucky.
Yeah.
And certainly opportunities are, I'm a firm believer that, you're always at the right place at the right time, whatever that place might well be. And my career I've been very fortuitous in working with some extremely large brands and doing some very crazy stuff in the early days of gaming back at E3 all the way we are today. So in an industry where technology and trends evolve extraordinarily rapidly, and the next big thing is always around the corner, the only thing that lasts is networks and the connections you have within the industry. And what defines how those are brought to bear is you and how you can best make sure those works. And sometimes you've got to give a bit of love to get a little love back. And I've certainly found that a lot of my Rolodex goes back a number of years because of that quid pro quo, and because of the fact that sometimes the needs of your partners and your friends in a lot of instances outweigh what you might not need in that point in time. So just making sure that you have a point of trust that you can work through in regards to what you're doing at any one particular time. And gaining that trust is really important in this industry. Then adapting the relationships as the playing fields alter, because they do. And as I alluded to before, they alter almost on a weekly basis. So if you're going to position for success, regardless of the changes in your market, you need to make sure that you have those touch points and that trust in place to assist you growing through that. I think also my experience has also given me a real appreciation of the impact of grassroots development in the gaming industry. I think the communities that I've seen grow from day one as indies and small scale studios have been the center point of some of these studios that have grown into huge monoliths of organizations. So forging partnerships at a very base level is absolutely key to making sure that you can then nurture, support, and provide solutions, which is basically what I've done throughout my whole career, to really stimulate and grow those markets out.
And the industry really does seem to be evolving at the moment. I mean, over the last few weeks, we've enjoyed the Olympics and the Paralympics. And one of the things that stood out for me was that the Olympic Committee, they're holding their first esports games starting next year, which seems to be a bit of a nod that the industry needs the younger audience now, more into esports, etc. And obviously, Xsolla, you've recently attended Gamescom and DevCom. So I'm curious, based on everything that you're seeing at these events and everything you're seeing in the industry, what are the most exciting trends that you're seeing shaping the video game industry right now?
That's a really good question. And we discuss the latest trends and developments impacting the video games industry almost on a daily basis, but very much it was front and center of the Gamescom and the DevCom discussions we have. We're seeing substantial growth, potentially in the cloud gaming sector. And we're exploring ways to enhance our offerings to accommodate into that space. But also through the vibrant indie development community that we certainly saw at Gamescom, it's highlighted the importance of strengthening our partnerships with smaller developers and studios. And as a consequence of the realignment that has happened in the marketplace, there's been a huge growth in smaller developers and small studios that have grown out of huge organizations. So we're seeing a lot more creativity at a baseline level coming into the market, providing more content, providing more opportunities, but also providing more capabilities for us to provide them with a roadmap of how to get share of voice, how to get their products to market, and also make money. Because ultimately, if their investment is going to be able to fulfill the needs of their partners and fulfill the needs of their own developer aspirations, we need to show them how to work together to be able to do that. So we continue to tailor monetization and distribution solutions to them, marking ourselves as the go-to platform and providing a helping hand in an extraordinarily competitive marketplace, which will only continue to be more competitive as time goes on.
Yeah, a big shout out to indie developers out there. Again, big fan since the days of Jeff the Yak Minter back in my childhood to present day. And one of the games I'm playing at the moment still wakes the deep. It's like this survival horror game set in a Scottish oil rig in the 70s. Just an amazing game, you know. But I mean, fast forward now, though. I mean, the EU's Digital Markets Act, it also seems set to impact digital distribution platforms and app stores significantly. So what implications do you see a legislation like that having on both developers and publishers, particularly in Europe?
I hope a positive one. I really have real keen optimism for what the DMA can bring, allowing game developers and publishers in EMEA to diversify their revenue streams away from major app stores. I think strict anti-steering legislation, which has already resulted in investigations against the big guys, means gatekeepers won't be able to prevent third parties from interoperating with the gatekeeper services. You speak to any developer or any game publisher, the mantra they're all talking about now is how do we get to direct to consumer? How do we show our products, our services to that community? Because ultimately, you need to build a sustainable, repeatable business plan. And if you don't even know who your customers are, it's really hard to do that. So I'm hoping that the DMA will allow for a more transparent environment to provide the people who are really doing all the heavy lifting in this marketplace to be able to exist in a more open and a more competitive space, to be honest. Developers and publishers are able to go down more avenues in the future, is what my hope is, to maximize their revenues and have the ability to link web shops into app stores, hosting apps on their own websites without the need to pay their hefty 27% commission rates. This is my hope for the EMA. It's going to take time to allow for that marketplace to really open up and for that kind of transparency to be there. But we are making the right moves. We are very, very supportive as an organization of the DMA. We work closely with Yuki and a lot of the other gaming federations across all of Europe to ensure that the transparency is there. And also allow the retention of a greater proportion of their earnings, which I think this transparency will allow them to be able to do, so that they can reinvest in their future growth. But without that transparency, without that offering that go and do what you need to do in a marketplace where you need to do it, it's going to be really tricky. So the sooner the DMA hits and becomes 100% effective, the sooner we all start taking better value from the marketplace.
And I know it's early days, but do you think those provisions for gatekeepers, do you think that will help level the playing field for smaller game developers and those indie publishers in the industry that are so important? That the whole industry, they're the foundations of it, aren't they?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, building on the points I just mentioned, some of the benefits are more relevant to smaller developers and indie publishers, such as the equal treatment in search and discovery and algorithms, giving smaller publishers a better chance of visibility without the need to pay for premium placements. I've certainly seen that as a real barrier that has literally destroyed games from day one because of their ability to not have that, not being able to react with the algorithm in a way that is self-satisfying. I think these points extend to the prevention of prefixing, meaning smaller developers won't be overshadowed by big in-house titles. And in certain times, some of these larger gatekeepers really focus on a sort of 90-10 factor when 10% of the games are bringing 90% of the revenue. So it's really hard for new brands, new games to break through because they've not only got to get the share of voice right, but they've also got to break through the demands of the revenues that are being proportioned towards other more successful games that have had a long established market presence. I think there's also a point of data portability. The DMA looks to allow users more easily transfer their data, such as gaming profiles between platforms, reducing lock-in, affect the benefits with larger companies, players being more willing to try new games or platforms without the risk of losing their progress or purchases. That should and will benefit small developers. But there's a ways to go to be able to get to that point. But that's the vision that the DMA, I think, can deliver and should deliver. And remembering as well that we've got nuances with the DMA, with the DMA that is from a European point of view. We have a variation here in the UK as well. So there will be always regional specifics that are going to have to be taken into considerations for the DMA, which will make it more complex and make it more challenging. But nevertheless, those goals that I've outlined certainly seem to be, I think, the most important things that the DMA needs to achieve.
100% with you on that. And another thing I wanted to highlight, of course, was Xsolla recently released its Summer 2024 edition of the report, The State of Play. So can you give me some insights into some of the key findings in there, what they mean for the future of the video game industry, any big surprises in there? Anything surprise you? Any big insights that stood out to you from that?
Well, I mean, certainly we all know the indie game development is rapidly expanding, as I alluded before, almost a consequence of the market realignment as added to that. But these titles capturing a larger market share of the market than ever before is certainly something that we should be, as an organization, focused on, especially in the post-EMEA landscape, where diverse revenue streams should mean even more success for indie titles. So that is a big up from where I would have thought the market would have already gotten to. So I'm seeing those kind of changes in the market as very positive. I think the report touched on the importance of influencer marketing, with platforms such as Twitch becoming more essential for reaching audiences. Something Xsolla has reacted to with its own XPM product. But I think giving access, as we try to do, to indies and our partners so that they can get the share of voice, and XPM gives access to, I think, 1.4 billion eyeballs of influencers. That's the kind of support that market needs. That's the kind of support that will enhance their capabilities. And we're very keen to make sure that although we provide multiple monetization solutions, we also streamline against those the opportunity to enhance their capabilities as well. So with our suite of offerings, they are always aimed towards making our partners successful in any which way we can. I think possibly one of the surprises is the mobile gaming continues to surge, supported by the increase of cashless transactions and digital wallets. The report, I think, predicts that global cash payment volumes will grow over 80% between 20 and 25. That surprised me, I've got to say. But that is a trend that is likely to become only more pronounced in the future. And I think that surge, or that continuing surge in mobile gaming, it just seems to be endless. I mean, I had conversations today about the opportunity in Africa, where you've got a attachment rate across the whole of that continent of, I think it's 82%. So that market becomes more contained within the community of gaming, that will continue the surge on mobile gaming, to be honest. I think, on a final note for from my memory with the report, there's a huge increase in investment in early stage gaming startups as well. With I think it's over $250 million committed in Q1 24 alone. So this underscores the growth and confidence, the potential of new and innovative gaming projects, and the willingness for the media-centric investors to invest in this growing media landscape. I mean, everybody knows that gaming is already bigger than movies, music, TV combined, and will continue to surge out. And I think new records will be broken when the new GTA hits the marketplace as a media phenomenon. So it just continues. There are no real surprises other than the fact that this market continues to grow, continues to evolve, and continues to blow up in the most positive of ways as this really becomes a mainstream media entertainment phenomenon. And I'm fully in support of that, and everything we do at Xsolla goes to support that as well.
And of course, the gaming industry is constantly evolving, and that thriving indie movement that you mentioned is a great example of that, combined with 1.4 billion eyeballs of influence. Is an incredibly nice problem to have. So how are you adapting to this changing landscape, and what kind of strategies are you implementing to stay ahead of some of these emerging trends, which probably brings challenges as well as opportunities, I would imagine?
As always, to be honest, and I think relying on my knowledge and experience over the years, I've constantly learned to adapt and to change to the market's needs. And the EMEA team now, we've taken on a strategy of hiring developer relation leads in a number of our key territories. And we're really intent on building strong foundations in the ED scene, connecting developers themselves as frequently as possible. Ultimately, the individuals developing games are the ones we are driving the trends in gaming, and the indie development gaming scene is increasingly making a substantial impact. I think indie games now account for nearly a third of all streaming revenues. So the remit of the developer relation leads is basically to make sure that they are in their territory, in touch with all indie development teams, personalities, understanding what the needs of their individual businesses are like, because everyone's got a bespoke solution that's required, and then to make sure that we are fulfilling the needs of that with the solutions we have. Our product team is constantly working to stay ahead of those trends, developing new tools that may aid partners or prospects into the future. So making sure that we are understanding of the needs and making sure that we have close touch points with that community is key to our future offering and to our future success.
So one of the things I always try and do at the end of a podcast is give people listening a valuable takeaway. Now, as someone deeply involved in the business side of gaming, what advice would you give to any developers or publishers listening that are maybe looking to navigate some of the complexities of global game distribution and monetization, especially in light of new regulations like the DMA that we talked about a few moments ago? Any tips or advice that you would offer around that?
I think, firstly, be committed. This is a fabulous industry, a lot of fun, but it does take commitment to make sure that you can journey through it. But I guess my advice would be to take advantage of the potential of new revenue streams as much as you can. Explore direct-to-consumer business models, as I alluded before, as a way to cut out middlemen and maximize your earnings, enable them to reinvest that money back into your own titles. So basically be in charge of your own destiny, particularly where monetization is concerned. I think there's a real opportunity for business of gaming to be put back in the hands of gamers. And I would encourage developers and publishers alike to spend time exploring how the DMA specifically impacts them as individuals and how it can be used to benefit their business. And be knowledgeable, be smart, and then apply that knowledge to what it means for you. So everything, my advice is all about making sure you take the power back and that you operate in a way that the market can best bring value for you.
Fantastic advice, and a beautiful moment to end the podcast on today. But before I do, we started the show today talking about your origin story that's seen you go everywhere from Sony PlayStation to Warner Brothers and Xsolla now. So none of us are able, though, to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. Very often there's a particular person maybe we're grateful towards, maybe they just saw something in us very early days. But who would that person be and why? Let's give them a little shout out today.
For me, there's only one guy in my life that has really been not only a close friend, but a mentor for me through my last 20 years. He really, I don't know if you've seen the film Jerry Maguire, but he is my ambassador of Chrome. And the guy that's really helped me transition through all of my career points. Steve Race is the ex-CEO of Reebok. He was the founding guy for the CEO for PlayStation. He wrote the game plan for PlayStation. We had a very interesting kickoff point where I was working for an organization within PlayStation and presenting to him and three big personalities of the industry at that time, which was Bernie Stoller and then Angelo Parsini, who pretty much ran the gaming through North America. And I presented what I thought was a great presentation. And he destroyed me. He literally destroyed me. And afterwards, I thought, what have I done wrong there? I thought that was pretty good. He came up afterwards and apologized for that, but said that he was not doing it for my benefit. He was doing it for an internal political benefit, the guys that I'd worked for. So sometimes you can get, caught up in the crossfire. It's the big world of politics in corporate, to be honest. But at the same time, from that very foundation point, we grew a friendship and a relationship of many years that have seen me invest in his own son's business. That as a firefighter has grown a business that we invested in from literally nothing to doing $13 million worth of turnover a year. So not only is he my mentor, he's been a close friend, and he couldn't have been born out of a more stranger circumstance to begin with. But I'm very grateful for that relationship and very grateful as of today for his friendship as well.
What a great story. And I just love how it all came together there. Almost like a moment of serendipity almost. But for anyone listening, just wanting to find out more information about anything we talked about today with reference to the report and some of the great work you're doing at Xsolla, where would you like to point everyone listening?
Certainly to our website. I think that's everything that you need to understand about what we do, our solutions. You go to our website, Xsolla.com. Everything is a starting point there. If you have any information that you want to do on a European EMEA basis, by all means, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Always happy to have conversation and refer to where they are. I really enjoy talking to developers and what their needs of their businesses are. So by all means, start with the Xsolla.com, figure out from there. And if you really want to understand what's going on in Europe, ping me on LinkedIn. Always happy to help.
Fantastic. I'll add links to everything so people can find everything nice and easily there. We covered a lot in our conversation today, from the latest trends that you're seeing in the video game industry, following your time at Gamescom and DevCom, and the implications of the EU's Digital Markets Act on the video game industry, and also how it's how you as a commerce company are helping game developers publish, fund, market, launch and monetize their games globally. We could have chatted for another hour on this, just about the games themselves, but thank you so much for sharing your story today.
Oh, my pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time, Neil. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed talking to you. It was very easy to talk to you about, and I think we covered a lot of ground, and I hope it'll create value for the people listening to your excellent podcast.
So what will the gaming industry look like as regulations evolve and indie developers gain more traction in the marketplace? And again, quick shout out to those indie developers. And today, I think my guest gave us valuable insights into the challenges and, most importantly, opportunities facing developers as they navigate this changing landscape, driven by new trends from cloud gaming and the impact of EU's Digital Markets Act. I think as we've heard, smaller developers may soon have more opportunities to thrive with fewer barriers and more direct routes to consumers. And this has to be something to celebrate. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on here. If you're an indie developer, if you work in the gaming industry, please give me a shout. techblogwriter@outlook.com. Connect with me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just @Neil C. Hughes. Let me know how you see the future of gaming evolving with all these new changes on the horizon. But I'm afraid it's game over. Yes, that's it. We're out of credits. It's time for me to get out of here. I've stolen far too much of your time for one day. But if you still want more, don't worry. I'm going to be back same time tomorrow. But hopefully you'll join me again. But that's it for now. So speak with you all. So bye for now.